Very happy to welcome back a good mate of mine. He's been on the podcast a few times, and we catch up regularly at Seat. Josh Barney, CEO of Seat. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, my friend. I am really glad to be back here. I appreciate you having me on here again.
Not a problem. What I wanted to do is sort of look ahead for what is going to happen at Seat for 2026, but also a bit of looking back. So first of all, before we get into it, for people who might not have, if you listen to the podcast, you know that I've attended Seat many, many times. I think 15 or 16 Seat conferences overall. Nashville just wrapped and Charlotte is next. But for someone who's never been, how do you explain Seat?
The way I approach this conversation is this is a place where the folks who are behind the scenes from the sports and entertainment industry, the venues and the universities, get together to talk about stuff. So at its heart, Seat is a peer networking group for those that are in this industry. And it's a big part of what the lifeblood of this is that these teams compete on the court, the pitch, the field, whatever that is. But behind the scenes, all of these people work together for what what the industry really needs to keep moving forward, and that's the meeting place is Seat.
Absolutely, and really, it is getting everyone involved, whether it be the venue and tech side of things to help people get into the venue and make the experience great, to the digital sponsorship ticketing space that I've been been a part of, and then also the very important data geeks in the data and BI space that can analyse all of those people coming in and that customer experience, that fan experience piece. So it is really that whole of fan, and everyone's trying to solve that problem. How do we engage those fans, get them into the stadium and enjoy what we all love, which is game day.
Yeah, well, and to what the inception of Seat was, it was a technology conference. But we now are in a state and time where technology for the sake of technology isn't valuable, but the conversations around how do we use this to create better employee and fan experiences, that's where Seat really leads out in that space. So that's what makes it special.
And for those who don't know, you picked up the baton for Seat in 2023. It was really great to reach a milestone of 1,000 sports executives have attended Seats that have been under your stewardship, and the last one being at Seat 2025 in Nashville. What was your, overall reaction and to Seat in Nashville last year? As I still trying to get my dates right, in 2025.
Yeah, so the Nashville event for me was really that moment of a graduation from, my background is not in event management. I'm just somebody who loves this space. I want to help other people in this space. So there's been lessons learned for me to kind of get to this point. And really, Nashville was that graduation piece for me that, we had some time to kick the rust off the car type of thing. And we really kind of got into a groove again of what Seat was prior to my stewardship. And it was a lot of fun. Nashville's a great city. Like, it's hard to not have fun in that town anyway. But it really was bringing together, the sports and entertainment side of it to where we could have really good conversations to see how other folks in the other industries, we had folks from the music industry up talking about how they view data and analytics, and find those similarities and where we can learn from how they're doing some of those things. So Nashville ended up being a great town. We had a lot of fun. We had great partners that helped us in that to pull off some cool experiences as well.
Yeah, I just want to go through some of the highlights from my point of view. I mean, it was great. We'll see it soon, but hearing about the technology that's involved in the new Buffalo Bills stadium that's going to open soon. They just played their last game at Highmark, but then you're sort of talking about that music piece and that country. You can't go to Nashville and not do country music. So, lucky enough to have Michael Farris on the podcast after Seat, but bringing the Country Music Association in and finding out a little bit about how they go about data, how they go about ticketing, and some of the similarities and some of the differences. And that's to me, that's always been the conversation of Seat. How does someone else do it in a different league or a different industry? Yeah, and I think having that, I guess that mix of sports and entertainment, and you're right, it did sort of feel like, first couple of years, it's great to catch up with everybody that we knew from Seat, but it was definitely, there was a lot of Seat is really back. It had the same vibe of when Seat was at its best, with people connecting across both departments internally, like having multiple people from the same team turn up and have the conversations you can't have at work, but then also at the conference.
Yeah. And, you brought up a couple of the ones I really appreciated, the Buffalo Bills session that was in there. Just again, from how they approached this build of Highmark, the new Highmark, and the intentional things that they've been doing in that. And that's one of those pieces that I think more and more in the industry, as we learn to be more intentional with this stuff, as we're doing it, we build better employee and better fan experiences because of that. And I really appreciated Sean and Patrick being up there from Legends talking about that kind of approach and how they went through that stuff. Because I think that really does matter. And then I really, really enjoyed, you brought up Michael Ferris from the Country Music Association, him bringing in some few of his colleagues that looked at it that way. One of the things that I think is incredibly important in this is we can take a view of most of these industries that kind of are on the periphery of where we're at. And I view them as, we have a ticketed person in our space and time for a duration of time that we're entertaining, and we're interacting with them while they're there. And that's very applicable to a lot of places. That, is amusement parks, that's movie theaters, and all these things. And each of those industries has a different perspective on how they go about some of that stuff. And I feel like that's one of the important pieces that we have at Seat, is to gain perspectives on maybe potentially a different or better way to go in and do stuff. Or see, if somebody's using a similar tech stack to what we are in a different industry, how are they using it that's the same or different? So.
Absolutely, and then I guess the other one, as a personal one for me, was to get what we would call some Seat OGs up on stage. And I was lucky enough to interview them, being Katie Lopoff, Todd Calflitch, and Steve Reiss, and sort of talk and have a really deep conversation around what their career has been, what their work has meant to them, and also what the network and the community they had around them. And Seat was a big part of it for all four of us. For me, it was one of the highlights of I've moderated a bunch of panels. It was absolute highlight for me, and the I guess the attention and the leaning forward of the audience was terrific, and it was really like, if I could bottle that's Seat.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think we're both fortunate individuals to count those people among our friends, and when they have that moment of being vulnerable and talking about how they got to where they're at and what those highs and lows are and how to navigate through change, which is always scary. I think that was an incredible session, specifically because those in the audience and even myself, we were able to kind of reflect on our own kind of path that we've taken and seen those moments, and kind of learn and understand from where they came from and how they've done that. Because, you look at Steve, and, he's legitimately one of the original technologists in sports. And, that's a fantastic thing to see. That's pre-internet when you think about it. And, it's crazy to wrap your mind around that stuff in the day and age that we live in, and of digital tickets and that now. So,
absolutely. And then I think one of the things that you have brought to Seat, and you've really been big on, is this whole idea of experience, and then the total picture of experience. And one night in particular in Nashville, you completely knocked it out of the park with the closing night and the concert at the Country Music Hall of Fame. And the people who stayed, when you go to Seat, don't get the early flight out. That's my tip. Stay, because the people who did stay had an absolute phenomenal night at the Country Music Hall of Fame. What did that night mean to you?
Well, that one, for me was a special one from the standpoint that it was sponsored in part by the charity that my wife and I started, which is a big deal to us. It's called the Joshua Tree Project, and it's about creating more accessible, a more accessible world for individuals who experience it different than ourselves. And so we use that night to kind of take that moment to celebrate the end of the event. And we were lucky enough to find some friends and partners in Nashville that we brought in some Hall of Fame songwriters. And they hopped up on stage and performed some of their number one hits. So, we got to hear some songs from Rascal Flatts and hear some songs from Garth Brooks that were written, and we learned the emotion behind those. And then I, for some reason or another, took it upon myself to jump up on stage and sing a duet. So it was kind of all of those little fun things together. And then we had Ashton, who jumped up at the very end as well. And they ad hoc performed a song that he had written for his wife that nobody was expecting. So yeah, there were all these little moments that just kind of, made it special. And yeah, forever remember the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, and it's like you just want to make space to be able to have those moments, and I think that's what Seed in Nashville did. And so now you take away that success and the success you've had in the previous three iterations, in 23 in Salt Lake City, and then 24 in Las Vegas, and 25 in Nashville. In 2026, you've announced that Charlotte's going to be the host city. June 28 to 30 is when Seat 2026 will be. Why Charlotte?
From my time in the NBA working for a small market club, I'm a sucker for small market towns. And Charlotte, I think, is one of those that's in that period of time of kind of turning from the smaller market into a larger market. The amount of people who are moving there, and just in general the culture that exists there, I was very interested in it. And there's some great organizations that are based out of the greater Charlotte area. And then North Carolina is spoiled for top tier universities as well. So we went out and kind of did our site visit for it, and I immediately was impressed with how walkable the city was. And all of those things from an event side of it matter. And so us being able to go through and see how we could go in and build this event, it just kind of was the touch point for sports, music, and not just sports. It was stick and ball sports, motor sports, and music. And Charlotte's just kind of a great place for that.
Terrific. So yeah, we're really looking forward to Charlotte. But one of the other things that you've always had conversation with me, and what your vision was for SEAT was to be more than the annual conference. SEAT, we've been really deliberate in calling it SEAT and the SEAT community, and not always putting the word conference at the end, because it is a community and it is something that you do reach out to people that you met, and you follow up with their questions and find out what the case studies, speaking to Cameron Coughlin from the Salt Lake Bees, he was like, I had a Rolodex of all these people that I wanted to follow up with. So a big part of it was really developing the community, so that sort of started to form, I guess, formalizing that by launching SEAT membership and sort of making SEAT more than the annual conference. Do you want to sort of explain, I guess, your feelings behind it?
Yeah, one of the reasons why I felt that this was a good idea to do was it's nice to have the event where we get together and we, it's the family reunion. We all get to kind of share in being in each other's space, and we do learn a little bit in that moment of time. But, there's 362 other days out of the year that we're trying to do all of this stuff. And for me, education is important. Mentorship is important. And I felt that one of the things that we could do from the SEAT side of this is create a space where we give more opportunities throughout the year for people to communicate and for people to learn and have opportunities that way. And in the membership side of this, we're going in and placing some things in action where you'll have better opportunities to communicate with the folks from SEAT, not just from the same league that you're working in potentially, or from the same conference if you're in the university, but across all the leagues. And again, it's just as Cam had said, all of these people are trying to solve the same type of problem you're trying to solve, maybe just a little bit differently. And so the membership side of this is really to give those opportunities throughout the year. We've been fortunate enough that as we've launched this, we've had a few that have jumped in immediately out of the gate. We've had the Portland Timbers, we've had Texas Tech Athletics, we've had Oakview Group, we've had University of Kentucky, we've got the Tepper Entertainment Group, and we've got the folks over at the Hornets as well. Like, we've had some of these folks immediately jump in because, again, there's value in being able to expose their employees to all of these other folks that they can network with throughout the year. And I think that's huge. From somebody who's on the team side, that's a huge piece of this.
Absolutely, and I guess the challenge and is getting the message out, and which is what we're doing now, is that a team or an organisation, you're the one. If you're a team venue side, you're the one that can sign up as a member. That's signing up your organisation as a member. And then as you sign up as a member, you get one complimentary registration for that. So if you work on the team side or a venue side and you're planning to go, the smartest thing to do is to have your team become a member. There's other benefits in that more of your colleagues can get discounted registrations. You'll be doing first in first served in getting hotel room upgrades. But one of the things I'm excited about from the membership point of view is an expansion of some of the favourite sessions we have at SEAT at the conference, which is the roundtables, which are, if you have never attended SEAT and never attended a roundtable, and it is always a little bit confusing for a first timer, but you're going into a room with all of your colleagues and you're discussing what's working and what's not. And it's not a panel. It doesn't have a big title and an agenda. It's like, hey, what's working for you? Oh, I'm struggling with this, and so we're going to try our best to replicate that online. I know I've done it in the past. For those of you who attended the Sports Biz Zooms during the years that we no longer talk about, that got deleted from our existence. But I would have 70 people on those Zooms all talking about the problems and solutions. I think the SEAT roundtables online will be that. So there'll be links in this podcast for the schedule. So we'll have the full 12-month schedule of all the roundtables that you can attend as a SEAT member, and that is anybody in your organisation, as long as your team signed up. So if multiple people from the Timbers want to turn up, or multiple people from Texas Tech want to turn up, that's exactly what it's for. So it's really good from a staff development point of view. It starts some of those conversations or pre-conversations, like, oh, I really want to catch up with Brian when I get to Charlotte because we had a good conversation, or I was really interested in that. So even if you're not one that jumps into the conversation, you can lurk like crazy and make notes and get ready and really, be really prepared when you come to Charlotte. So I'm really looking forward to those sessions. I think the other thing was, and you could probably share it, is the accounting hack that's been discovered because SEAT isn't a membership. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah. So one of the things that we wanted to make aware to folks is there oftentimes in their accounting budgets different pools of money for subscriptions and then for events. And since there is a membership which effectively works like a subscription, it can go from a different pool of money potentially, depending on the accounting in your organization, that you might be able to draw from, which will allow you to bring more people to the event that we're doing, and to participate with us throughout the year. I wanted to throw in a couple other things that Sean was talking about in there. Is we're planning on some extra activities that are only for. It's a VIP type of thing for the membership people that will sit a little bit outside of the conference. So we are trying to do things.
So that's
as well,
the thing, the special perks and upgrades and the like. You there? So I think the roundtables will be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing more teams sign up. And then the other thing is a really big part of SEAT, and I think it's something that has evolved in your tenure, is the steering committee. And I think Over the 3 years, I guess the execution of that, the feedback, how much they set the agenda. Again, if you want to say, the guy who locks on the roof at Three Bears, I think it was just right in Nashville. You opened up the applications for people to apply to be on the steering committee in late December. What's been the response so far, and what are you looking for from steering committee members?
Yeah, we've had a great response for that being put out. One of the things that I wanted to achieve with that is, being that we are members of a community, I wanted to give opportunities for those who want to put their name forward to be able to be helpful in those things, and not just have it be people who are there all the time doing the same thing. It's for me, important for those contributions to be able to exist that way. So we put that out there. We've had a great response on that so far. One of the things that we're doing with this is the steering committee is effectively responsible for all of the track content that we put out. I announced this before, but I really don't do paid speaking engagements because I want all of the content at the event to be as honest and genuine as it can be. And so we rely on the steering committees to help us to put that content forward. So if there are case studies out there that people are interested in getting in, those can all be submitted for the steering committee to kind of look over and have that opportunity to put that in front of the seat community at the event. So we'll be doing about 6 meetings with the steering committee leading up to the event to go through and refine that content. So it's not a huge ask, because I recognize as well how busy you are in your daily lives working for the teams and the venues and that. And so we wanted to make something that was easy for you to be able to be a part of, but still be a valuable contribution for that component of what the event ends up being.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone that's been on the steering committee in the past, put some really good friendships and partnerships, and seen some really great sessions come out. From my point of view, if someone says, "Oh, what do you want?" I was like, attendance. You'll be there, and also you turn up to those 6 meetings. It's always good. It's 45 minutes. It's really real. If you keep it on track, and it's like, hey, what are the things you want to hear about? That's pretty much, we open every steering committee. Like if there's a topic that's been done too much, we don't need to do that. We all know that thing. We really want to talk about this. That's what it is. So you really do get to shape. Come to the steering committee with your biggest problem. Guess what? That will be a panel and a discussion, and you'll come back with a bunch of solutions. So that attendance piece, and then just bring your passion and knowledge. I want to give back to the industry, and I want to share my knowledge. It's super valuable for people, and like you said, for a 6-hour commitment over 6 months, it's pretty good. And then on the piece of that case study, I think one of the improvements we're planning for 2026 is actually submit. We want to hear your wins. Hey, this is what we did well. We rolled out a new stadium, we built a new facility, or we rolled out a new CRM, or here's a campaign that did really well. That kind of content is the content that really works well at Seat. And so we want to be able to get people putting their hand up saying, hey, I want to talk about what I did. I want to talk about, like looking at GM talking about an amazing ticketing campaign that the Ducks did. Like you want to be able to hear those kind of things, because people who turn up to see it are the people who like the nuts and bolts. They like getting into the weeds. And so hearing about on the stage is great, but then it moves into the networking sessions or the late night chats around it. So yeah, I can completely vouch for being on the steering committee and the opportunity that it offers, but also don't be shy in saying, hey, this is what I did in the last 12 months, and I'm really proud of it, because the community will want to hear that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, the more folks realize that while they may be unique individuals, there are other people that are trying to do that exact same thing. And if you've found something that works, it may not be applicable to everybody, but there's probably another organization out there that can learn from that, and that could be extremely valuable to them. And so it's very much like improv comedy. It's very much a yes and in a lot of that. And it's beautiful when you see those. Like we had the Savannah Bananas content that we ended up doing with Clemson University in Nashville. We've had a few of those, and those directly came through the steering committee on what that looked like. So yeah, it's fantastic when those things pop their head up.
Absolutely. So looking ahead to Seat 2026, plans are still in flux, but you're planning certain things. What are some of the things you can expect in Charlotte?
Yeah, well, as I said, we're going to be doing an event specifically, like I said, outside of the event for our steering committee members and for the organizations that have come on as members. We'll be doing that on the 27th of June. There'll be more information that comes out around that. We'll have our welcome reception at a very large venue that's there. We want to keep those fun. We had a great experience at Bridgestone Arena with the Predators in Nashville. We want to continue that momentum. And so we've been talking with the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC to do it at Bank of America Stadium. So our welcome reception, we're looking to have some fun there for that kickoff night, really of the family reunion. That's where kind of everybody gets back together, and it's just a lot of fun to see folks in that moment. Then we will be doing, as you guys know, the conference itself at the convention center. And then one of the new things that we're kind of adding in this year in an effort to provide those spaces for folks is we're activating a little bit better in the hotel over what we've done before. We could talk about that, in greater detail, but it's a thing that we're working on called Seat City. And I think it's going to end up being a really cool networking space for folks outside of the conference time. Then our opening night, this will be what was the Country Music Hall of Fame, I think, for Charlotte, but we'll be at the NASCAR Hall of Fame for our first night, and that's going to be
cool.
Really exciting. Yeah, we've got the full museum, the driving simulators. My understanding is there's even a moonshine event that they have there as well. So we'll get a little bit of the NASCAR history there too. But yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, we're gonna try and have as much fun and learn as much as we can and network with as many people as we can while we're there. And we're quite excited about the fun we're going to have at this place.
Yeah, and I guess part of it also is that the conference will be at the conference center, effectively across the road in the hotel. We have that, what you described as Seat City, which will be like an upgraded lobby bar. We all know we've been to a seat, and eventually the lobby bar becomes quite packed with everybody. And what we'll be doing is having that Seat City back at the hotel at the Hilton, so people know, hey, where am I going after I've been out to dinner or after the event? That's where it'll be, and the fun will continue because that networking after dark is sometimes just as important and just as fun as the rest of the day.
Yeah, and and what we're trying to do in that space is we'll activate beyond just kind of a sports bar type of thing. We're gonna have like karaoke. We'll probably have some arcade type of things in there as well. So it's a fun space to hang out in as well, and it's not just a spot that would effectively be a bar, but we want everybody to enjoy their time there. So Seat City is something we're actually quite excited about because it's a new piece that we're adding to Seat this year.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about people attending as members and coming from the team side and the venue side, but a big part of why Seat works is the vendors and partners that get involved and become part of the community and become, more than just vendors. They become true partners in the sense of the word, and they bring solutions to the conference and to the community. Why should partners get involved with Seat in 2026?
Well, one of the things perspective-wise that I had walking into this is, as a community, the community is not just the members of the teams and the venues and all that other stuff, but the partners that they bring to help create these experiences. So I always wanted the relationship to be very healthy in that space, and from the perspective of where I've been at with Seat, we've had some amazing partners that have helped us over the past 3 events that we've done. From JMA, American Tower, Cisco's been there to help us. We've had Uniguest. It really is an extremely long list of these folks. that have invested their time and energy in it, because they're the ones that are helping these folks inside of their venues to create these experiences that way. So from the perspective of why I seek out partners in this is, you guys are the folks helping them solve this problem. And Seat becomes a place where it's a very natural way to engage with them, because these folks are looking for solutions that can help them in their venue. So it's already, one of the hurdles that you kind of have to overcome is wanting to know if they even want your product. These folks do want it, because this is what they're doing in their venue. The value that we bring in this is we have intimate, Seat is kind of the right size of a conference to be able to have a more intimate conversation with these folks. And I want people to understand that we really do try and lean in on the networking, so that it becomes very easy for people to move through, the different events that we have and have conversations. It doesn't feel like there's too many people to interact with. It does kind of feel just right. And so it's an easy place for those conversations to take place, because we've kind of walked into that intentionally and trying to create a space where that can exist that way.
And also, I think part of it's also the introductions. A lot of the times it's people who are part of the community, they work on team side, whether it be on the venue or data or BI or in the digital space, and they're like, oh, we work really well with this partner. Oh, you should really be coming to Seat and meet other people that are in my sport or in a sport, or in another industry. So a lot of the introductions actually come from team side. So if you're attending Seat and you've got, you know what your tech stack is, who should be turning up to Seat because they bring value to you. So, and sometimes that's just as valuable, for them. So, it is quite, it does have that community feel on how the partners get involved.
Yeah, I had 2 emails that came in this morning that were specifically from teams that had recommended that certain partners look at coming to Seat and being a part of it for that exact reason.
So a lot of it, once you're part of the community, you sort of use the term family reunion. You just want to come back to, catch up with people. We see that in the steering committee applications. I've been to 3 Seats. I love it. I love coming back every year. What about people who've never been? Why should 26 be their first Seat?
Well, from the missing out perspective, the FOMO side of this should be that you're missing out on interacting with some amazingly great people. That's kind of the first part of it. And, and I've told my story on how I got involved with Seat when I was on the team side of it. I was in need of knowledge on how to do a project that I only had a small piece of experience for what the overall scope was. And it was recommended that I come to Seat to kind of find all of those other pieces of the puzzle that I was looking for. And so when I showed up to this, immediately, it actually ended up being the largest event that Seat had at that point in time. So I was immediately like, holy cow, this is huge. But I also was able to wander through and have those interactions that I needed to, talking to Samsung and talking to a few other folks, that those all of a sudden were the conversations that led to the partnerships that we did when I did my renovation in 2017.
Absolutely.
From a first-timer perspective, this is that place where you'll be able to go in and meet those folks and kind of establish those relationships. And from a career progression piece as well, I talk to people all the time who say that their career has been built off of the interactions that they have from these folks at Seat. So from a selfish perspective, even from your own career, look, like if you're looking for a way to continue the momentum in your career, Seat is a place where you can come and interact with the folks that you'll be able to interact with ongoing, that introduce you to new job opportunities, that introduce you to new relationships. It's a fantastic, environment for that.
Absolutely. So people do know, if they're listening now, you can go to seedconference.com. There will be prompts there to either get your team signed up. So you can get your team signed up for $9.99. And like I said, that gives you the first complimentary registration. So it's the most effective way for you to attend if you're looking from a price point of view. But then early bird pricing for attendees closes when the Super Bowl happens. So if you're listening to this and you're planning to go to Seat, and you want to get it at an early bird price, now is the time. And also, like as we publish this, that we'll be taking those last minute applications for the steering committee to get things get kicked off. And as we discussed before, the roundtables will be kicking off Jan 26. And a few of the roundtables will open up to previous attendees and people interested, but eventually those roundtables, they're too valuable for everyone to go. It'll be members only. So go to seatconference.com. That's where all the info is. If you've got a question, please reach out to Josh at seatconference.com. Is his email. I'm just freely handing it out into the internet, but please reach out to him. I wanted to finish with a final question for you, Josh. If Seat didn't exist, what would the industry be missing?
Well, this was the existential question that I asked myself when I initially made my inquiry around what was going on with Seat post-COVID. And it was that I recognized that there was a gap that existed from not only the peer relationship side of this, but technology had changed from pre-COVID to post-COVID and how teams were going in and using it. So I looked at this from the perspective that if Seat wasn't happening, these important conversations where you're learning from other folks on how they're implementing things in their tech stack, or if there's a new technology that people should be looking at, those conversations aren't taking place. And there was a lot of other groups that were trying to get things going that never got traction, and this really is the natural fit for it. And if Seat's not there, like it's a loss of relationships and it's a loss of knowledge that really can be helpful to folks. And I've said all along, the purpose that I want in this is that we help people on their path. And that's, from an industry perspective, I think that's one of the most important pieces of Seat is the whole reason why we exist is to help people do what they do better.
Absolutely. And I'm very thankful and grateful that you did reboot Seat. It was missed. There definitely was a gap in the connectivity of the industry and the sharing of solutions. So it is great that Seat is back. I will see you in Charlotte 2026. I'll obviously see you on the emails and everything else prior to then, but I'm looking forward to seeing you again in real life. Josh, thanks for coming on the podcast again, and I look forward to seeing you and listeners of the podcast and former alumni. A lot of them have been at Seat in Charlotte in June 2026.
Yep. Love you all. Thank you.